Welcome to Dark Minds, Shattered Lives, where we expose predators, dive into the minds of evildoers, and help you and your loved ones avoid them. I'm your host, Deborah Dobbs. I'm an author and victim advocate with a reputation for rattling cages. Welcome back to the show. Last time, in part one of the Billy Chemirmir case, we sat down with retired Plano Police Lieutenant Doug Deaton, who didn't hold back on how Dallas's so-called leadership dropped the ball, allowing a psychopath to victimize the most vulnerable, killing at least 22 elderly people between 2016 and 2018. If it hadn't been for survivor Marty Bartel and the tenacious detectives at the Plano Police Department, Chemirmir might still be killing people today. Now in part two, we're flipping the script to those fancy retirement communities like the Tradition-Prestonwood and Edgemere. Chemirmir waltzed right in, pretending to be a worker, and committed his crimes undeterred. Management turned a blind eye to sketchy stuff like random deaths, multiple deaths, and some creep roaming around, all because they cared more about looking boujee than locking doors. Stick around as we unpack this mess, and then Doug will give us some great tips on how to check if those safety measures apartments and retirement communities brag about actually hold up.
You know, let's say I'm an elementary school principal, okay? And somebody comes to me and like, hey, have you noticed that some of your kids end up missing every now and then? Like, yeah. Yeah, well, listen, there is a tiger that is hunting and killing kids on the playground at this school where you're a principal. And I know he's out there and this is happening. You think maybe I ought to check on that? That maybe I ought to like make sure the fences are set up right.
Yeah.
And maybe there's not some tiger walking in dressed up like a teacher with the teacher's name tag on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, who are you? Oh, my name is
Tony.
Benjamin Koitaba,
mm-hmm.
which is one of the fake names he was using.
Mm-hmm.
Real person, not him.
Right.
Oh, hey, I work here. And because he worked at all these home health places and worked in various...
Yeah.
So he knew, so, okay, yeah, you're good to go. Yeah, no problem. Hey, do you not recognize that this guy does not, in fact, work here? This is a tiger coming in here to prey on people.
There seemed to be one woman.
Yeah.
One woman in the documentary anyway.
Yeah.
Who said she went and told the people in the office. She confronted him.
Yes. And they didn't want to hear it.
No.
And they didn't want to hear about it.
The maintenance guy tackled him, I guess.
Yes, correct.
And, but even then, it was like, okay, well, you get he gets a warning. Like,
a warning. A warning.
Don't come back.
Dude, what are you doing in here? No, there should be a lot more than just a warning.
Yeah.
The thing to keep in mind is that once attorneys get involved, attorneys always tell you, don't say anything. Admit nothing. Admit no guilt of any kind. Make no admissions. Be quiet. Be silent. Refer any complaints to us. And all of these places are owned by corporations. And that's what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Legal is going to get involved, and they're going to tell you, you don't say anything.
Oh, they had a script they were reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
You will not deviate from the script. You will read only this to these people that are upset. So, I got a real problem with that.
Yeah.
And these places knew that their security protocols were awful. They knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And even after there had been irregularities, and people admitted later that they had privately been thinking, I wonder if somebody's killing these women.
Yeah.
If that thought crosses your mind at all, maybe you ought to look into that and do something about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. But, instead of saying that, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to admit to that.
Yeah.
Everything is fine here at Whispering Hills. I'm just making that name up, by the way. I don't think that's a real place. But, everything's fine here at Whispering Hills. We have the highest quality, care and security, and we care about your family because you are our family. No, you're not. And it's pretty clear you're not taking care of things. And why has this guy been showing up here and coming in and out, and
that's something that comes up in the Gift of Fear. He talks about one of the worst things for you to do is say, oh, it's probably nothing.
That's exactly right.
It's
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody's killing these women. Oh, probably not. It'd be women. I mean, why did you even have that thought? The fact that you have that thought, something's speaking to you. That
Yes.
deep inside you, you know.
That's right. You know. Or there's certainly enough, if you want to put it in cop terms, there's enough reasonable suspicion to believe that somebody might be killing these women. Might even be some probable cause. Might want to look into that.
Yeah.
You know, the only reason that he got caught is because there was a woman who survived.
Yes.
That's it. And,
Yeah.
you know, he told her when he came in, you know, he came into the room and she was like, who are you? You know, oh, I'm here to check on the such and such. You know, he always had a story. I'm here to check on a leak. I'm here to do this. I'm here to do some maintenance.
Yeah.
Story. But this lady was pretty sharp, and she was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's already done the other day. And so then he was like, don't cause any problems. And he already had these gloves on, you know.
Yeah.
And then he like grabs her. He's like, go lay down on the bed. And he tries to get her to lay down on the bed because he was going to shove her down there and then smother her.
Yeah.
But she didn't do it. She didn't comply. And he tried, and he tried strangling her, and that didn't work out. And then he ended up getting scared and hauling ass. If that had not occurred, he might still be out there killing.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
And so she gave a very good description of him and what had occurred. And I remember somebody came into my office and like, hey, Doug, we got a problem. And I was like, what happened? So they're telling me what all happened. I was like, holy shit. You know, we got to do, so I remember the day that it occurred. I was like, this is a serious problem. And then they were saying, yeah, well, the lady right across the hall from her died, you know, however, not that long ago. And another lady right down the hallway from her died. And a security guy is saying that, a maintenance guy is saying that same guy meeting the description was seen leaving the area right about the time that she died. So now we're starting to wonder, did he kill these people in there? Because, he tried to put this lady on the bed and was going to smother her. Maybe these people got smothered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. It could be far-fetched, Doug, but I think maybe somebody's smothering old ladies in these homes. I remember the day that happened. And then it just exploded from there. And the next 2 years, it was just incredible. But he is, I'm not a psychologist, but I believe in my heart that guy was absolutely psychopathic killer.
He had no remorse.
None.
And he did engage in different types of crime too. He was murdering them as because they were inconvenient, I guess. They would be able to identify him, so he would just kill them and take their jewelry.
Take their jewelry.
But he was making money. It was like a profit.
No, it wasn't like it probably. It was very much so.
So he wasn't like the Ledbetter guy at all in that way. He wasn't, it's sadistic what he did, but you wouldn't classify him as a sadist. It was, that's to cover my ass. That's just
a means to an end.
Yeah. It's just getting rid of evidence.
Yeah. So look, I want to be clear. I don't in any way believe what I'm saying, what I'm about to say. I just want to make sure that people understand. What I'm about to say is about what he thinks.
Right.
What he feels. Guys like this, I mentioned this to you when you and I talked. Imagine, if you're a listener, imagine that there are insects of some kind, harmless insects. They can't hurt you. They can't sting you. Nothing. You can pick them up and handle them. There's not a problem. But insects that just walk around freely generate free gold and silver and platinum jewelry. It just grows on them.
Like if ants made gold or something.
What if ants walked around with gold rings on their backs? You know? They were just a natural production, right, of an ant.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, hey, here's a $2,000 gold ring that just grew out of this ant. You don't care about what that ant thinks about you taking that gold ring. That's exactly how he saw these people.
Mm-hmm.
They're just insects to him, literally. They're nothing more than that. He didn't give a shit about these people.
Mm-hmm.
They were just an inconvenient witness, you know. And you're right. It wasn't about sadistically hurting anybody. It was about getting rid of loose ends.
Yeah.
Sure that he couldn't be identified, that nobody would interfere with his ongoing criminal enterprise. That's one thing I have noticed about sociopaths and psychopaths is that they actually take offense at someone who has dared, someone who has the audacity to interfere with their plans for greatness, whatever their criminal enterprise is, or whatever they're doing. It's like, who are you? How dare you interfere with me and what I'm doing? And they actually get offended by it. It's like, I'm over here busy killing people, and you're
making my money,
and you're going to come in here and question me, and they mean it. They're not with no, I mean, unironically. I mean, they really do mean it. And he was very much like that. It's just like he couldn't be bothered with all of this BS. Just couldn't be bothered with any of this. So yeah.
And he seemed totally unrattled. I mean, I'm not one that reads body language. I'm not an expert on that, but he just seemed in the footage of the interviews, he just didn't seem bothered at all. It was like, I wasn't there. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Total denial.
Yeah,
admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. Right. That was his MO. I mean, just the standard stuff. And then sitting there with a straight face, in the courtroom saying that, he would be found innocent, he's being railroaded, it's unfair, trying to play the race card, trying to play a different nationality card, trying to play something else, but always the victim. He's the true victim here, not all these other people. Someone else did all this. It wasn't me.
He'd go to Walmart.
Yes.
And act like he was on the phone. He was dressed nicely.
Yes.
And he would just stalk his victims there.
Yes.
That was one way he did it.
Yes. Correct.
And so then it comes down to, again, it's not their fault at all, but it's situational awareness.
Correct.
Because the guy he left Walmart after he had picked this victim.
And follow her to her home.
Yeah.
In some cases, follow her back to the assisted living place. Right.
And they just didn't notice.
They didn't notice. Yeah. He picked out a certain type. And we all know those kind of ladies that, like the jewelry.
Yeah.
And and they were not aware. And so it was one of my very close friends, a very, very close friend of mine that is the person who caught him. Well, really, initially. They were surveilling him because he was already a suspect, right? They lost it for a little bit, but watched him go to a dumpster and threw away a jewelry box. And they knew he had just come from a house in Dallas.
Oh, they were so close.
And so my buddy went over there, got the jewelry box out of the dumpster. On the bottom of the jewelry box was the name of the lady who owned it. And they knew which house he had just come from. So my buddy called Dallas PD. They did a quick check. That same name was associated with that house. So my buddy calls Dallas PD. He said, we need a uniformed officer. We need an officer out here right now to do a welfare concern. We think that he may have just murdered the lady inside the house. And so Dallas did send somebody out, went inside, and he had.
And it had been within maybe an hour.
Yes, correct.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
That had to have been so hard.
It was. Yeah, it was bad. But that's how they caught him. Yeah. So it's, sometimes you have a fortuitous, I guess you could call it a break in the case. Sometimes it's just mere chance. Sometimes it's a small mistake that they make. But again, I just want to be very clear. The line officers and the detectives at all the agencies involved, including Dallas PD, did everything they were supposed to do. But
well, patrol officer isn't in the position to say, or might get dismissed just like I would. Well, I think that you need to look into this. They'd be like, you're just a patrol officer. What do you know?
Right.
Does that happen?
No, that happens all the time.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing I want to cover is how do you avoid this? And I know one thing that came up, there was rapists who are maintenance guys in apartment complexes. They have access to the apartments, and they, in some of these places, are doing there, even doing criminal background checks on these guys.
Right.
And so when my daughter was looking at an apartment, that was one of the things I asked. And I didn't have to ask actually. They had it all presented. Not that there's plenty of crooks that just haven't been caught yet.
Sure.
So it's not a shield, but at least they're making an effort.
Yes.
And so in this place, the doors that were supposed to be locked, the exterior doors, the locks didn't work.
Right.
So, like, you're going to place, check those.
Yes.
Ask about background checks.
Right. And
what else?
The other issue is that well, the background check issue is problematic because, frankly, if I'm of one race and I look enough like this other person of the same race, and the people doing the background checks are of a different race, and they're glossing over fine differences between, facial expressions, and they just assume that everybody of this race looks a certain way, and I present you with the fake ID. It's almost like when you're in high school, it's like I got somebody's, you know what I mean? Like when, you're 6, 17 years old, you got somebody that's 21, somebody's old ID, and it, kind of sort of looks like you.
Yeah.
And you show it to somebody, like, yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah.
Well, he exploited that.
Okay.
And that's literally what he did. He had the ID of another man of the same race as him who looked similar to him.
Yeah.
And then other people who should have known better just gave it a quick once over. Yeah, okay, all right, that's good. And they just took it at face value instead of looking at the damn picture.
Yeah.
And actually making sure, is that the same guy in this picture that's standing in front of me?
Yeah.
And it's not. And it clearly wasn't if you actually take the time to look at it.
Yeah, he didn't look that much like him. But eyewitness testimony is already pretty shaky. But if it's somebody who's not of your race, it's even less reliable. I believe that's still the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you have to check yourself when you're looking at that stuff. Of course, I can't force anybody else to do that works at these places, but check these backgrounds. The house that I mentioned earlier that he came from, that was a very, very wealthy family in the Dallas area. And they were, but, they had hired home health care for for this lady, and they had somebody else working there. And they were like, hey, do you know anybody else that would be, might be good to help work here? And she, oh yeah, I know somebody. And she mentions the guy by his fake name. And so they didn't do a background check because they're just assuming, well, this lady.
He's referred.
He's been referred to us by a trusted source. Well, are they really a trusted source?
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I want to be very careful what I say here. I'm not saying that the family did anything wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying that if the family had actually done a standard, regular background check on the new employee applicant, they would have realized this is not the same guy.
Yeah.
And perhaps it could have been prevented. That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Never, ever, ever trust what they're saying when it comes to your family.
I think it's human nature. I mean, even spies. She was a Cuban double agent.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to admit it.
Yes. I think the one you're talking about is the one that was working in the government here.
Yes.
In the U.S. and it was passing information back.
Yeah.
She had risen up. Yeah. No, come on. She's local. She's nice.
So it's not just regular people. It's also you have people high up in the government that are in espionage business.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to believe that the person down the hall is the person who's actually working against you or committing horrible acts.
What else would you recommend to people?
So as ugly as this might be, and I don't, my take on it is that my mother's getting older. If this ever, I don't know what the future holds, but I can tell you what I'm going to do. If she ever is in a place like that, I'm not going to just trust what they're saying about the security of the place.
Yeah.
Only go in the doors that I'm told to go in.
Yeah.
I'm going to also, without telling anybody and without asking anybody's permission, I'll park somewhere else and I'll walk up there and I'm going to go check other doors just to make sure they are in fact locked.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see if I'm challenged, because they should be challenging me if I'm trying to come in the place through a different door. Mm-hmm. So if I'm able to access that facility through a door that should be locked, that's a problem, especially if I'm never challenged.
Mm-hmm.
You know it? I expect that I would be challenged if I were even trying to come in to another door. And I would recommend other people do the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, what's the worst that can happen? What are they going to say? Hey, Doug, you shouldn't be coming to this door. What are you doing? Hey, Mr. Smith, you're not supposed to come in this way. That's what I want to see from them.
Yeah.
But if I don't see that, that could be a problem. You know,
Roam around. If you're able to just go in and roam around, that's a bad
that's
sign.
a huge problem.
Okay.
So if you're able to do that, that's a real problem. So I would recommend people do their own little spot checks as well.
Okay.
You know, don't just trust the oh, well, I'm going to go through the front entrance, you know, with the place I'm supposed to go in and check with the front staff, and they're going to buzz me in through this door. Oh, it's very secure. They buzzed me in through the front door. Oh, yeah? Well, is the back door secure? How do you know that? Did you check it?
Yeah.
Can you walk in through the back, like where the, you know, the dumpsters are and, you know, the trash stuff is and all that? What happens if you try to walk in there? Does anybody stop you?
Or you see the doors propped open.
Yes.
I think that's...
Especially in this day and age of smartphones, you see a door propped open, you take a picture of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know it? Take
Yeah.
some pictures and then go confront them with it.
Yeah. I know they were talking about home health care. I guess you go through, at the very least, go through an agency.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Word of mouth is very dangerous. It can be.
Okay.
It really can be. I mean, word of mouth led to somebody being killed.
He had provided care to someone's father.
Yeah.
And I think they thought he's just waiting for him to die.
Yeah.
So they hadn't had bad experiences with him.
He had worked legitimately in
Yeah.
home health care and in, you know, and elder care and all that. He had, which is that he used that knowledge and experience to exploit the system and exploit all these other places. And he knew exactly what to say and how to act and all that, you know. So
we're seeing like a mugshot. He just looked evil. He has this dead eyes.
Right.
But out and about, when you're seeing him in the Walmart video, he just looks like a guy.
Well, when the videos that I saw of him going into the gold and silver shops,
oh yeah,
he's affable.
Yes,
He's smiling. They know him. You know,
Yeah.
He's a regular customer. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Blah, blah. And there's some other videos of him meeting some guys outside one of those shops that he knows. You know, people in the same community that he was in. And it, again, you know, body language, smiling, friendly, shaking hands, etc. So
charming.
yeah, that's it. Charming.
I always think of charm as a verb. It's never an adjective. It's why is he trying to charm me? It may not be nefarious. Maybe they're trying to sell you a car,
Sure.
or to get out of trouble, a kid. You know,
He's trying to sell you something.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
He's trying to sell you an image or a belief that it's important to him that you have in your head.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to put that in your brain. You know, it's important to him that you believe he is a certain thing. So he is trying to sell you on something.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, of course, again, I'm very cynical and cautious about that kind of stuff. Anytime I think somebody's trying to sell me something or sell me on a concept or an idea, it makes me double down on my suspicion.
Yeah.
Wondering about how does this benefit them and what's their real motivation, you know?
It's like a healthy skepticism, though. You still get along with people.
Yeah.
You have friends.
Right.
It's not like you're shutting off the whole world because you're just this cynic. It's a healthy skepticism. Thank you for listening to Dark Minds, Shattered Lives. I'm Deborah Dobbs, and until next time, trust your gut and know your exits.